Let's check out the fantasy basketball waiver wire. Who's been added and dropped? Which two-way guys do we need to care about? Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I also like what Chauncey's doing. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com and get the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team, LockedOnDaily.com. Sub over here, YouTube, audio, double bangs, comments, thumbs. Love it. We're talking waiver wire. If you can just give me 90 seconds, hopefully, to just talk about that initial quote that I said. Again, I've said this for 3-4 years. The Inside the NBA crew and ESPN's NBA coverage, it makes the NBA worse. I don't care if you find it funny. I don't care if you think it's not an analyst show, it's a comedy show. I agree there are funny parts in some of those shows, but the way that they approach the game, the lack of effort that they have in learning what their job is, Shaq not knowing that Chauncey Billups doesn't coach the Pistons, and then giving analysis on them, and then telling us he doesn't watch them, and says they're boring, and then says he doesn't watch any team that doesn't win, is not 40-20, is ridiculous. And you say, oh, everyone knows the joke. They don't. Not everyone knows this. They follow that, and that is why you get all this negative vitriol regarding the league, about how bad it is and why no one pays attention, because all this stuff seeps into people's brains. It is ridiculous. It's not easy, but it is possible to actually know the league, know every single player and everything about them, every coach, everything that goes on, to know about the salary cap, to know about transactions, to know about plays. It's easy to do that and also be entertaining and funny. It's not easy. It's possible. Versus whatever that garbage is and what it has been for 10 years. It makes the league worse. And bringing them over on your new rights deal onto ESPN, I've never seen someone try and chop their own dick off as much as the NBA does it by doing this. It is insane that and then you make your All-Star weekend focused on this. Absolutely crazy. It is the most insane thing you could ever do. Oh, they're funny. Cool. Be funny. Don't be the premier analyst show on the premier days of the premier league season, whatever you want to do, to put your thoughts out there as if you know what you're talking about. So other people parrot that back. What would you know? Shaq's won 5 rings. More than him. That's what I would know. And every one of you watching here would know more than him about the current NBA. Almost guaranteed. 100% guaranteed, actually. You would know more than him. It is a crazy, crazy plan that it's been obvious to me for years that this is a problem. I do think people are pushing back on it a little, but man, anytime you criticize that show and Shaq and Charles and all those guys, you always get the people jumping in the comments to debate and go crazy at you. Well, yeah. It's actually inarguable the damage that does. Cool. We got that. It really frustrates me. All right, let's talk fantasy basketball waiver wire. What day is it today? It's noted author L. Ron Hubbard Day. And the reason I included that, obviously I know who L. Ron Hubbard is, but the list I have these lists of what day it is today. And it was like, L. Ron Hubbard Day. Let's spend today to celebrate the noted author L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah, that's what he's known for. That's definitely what people know L. Ron Hubbard for, and that's why the people talk about him now and remember him and some venerate him. It's because of his writing. It's because of his stories. That's definitely why. Noted author. All right, let's talk waiver wires. Let's talk players. Let's talk who's been added across leagues. Let's start with the most added players over the last 48 hours on Basketball Monster. Number 1 is the Juice McBride. And just McBride is an interesting one because the first 2 games without Jalen Brunson, let's be fair, they were terrible. And then last game was great. And now the Knicks play on Wednesday and one more game for the rest of the week. Terrible schedule. And it is distinctly possible, maybe likely, I don't even know, whether Brunson, he just might return at the start of next week. So while that's great, if you're looking for a single day stream of McBride here, for a longer term play to maximize your value, I don't think it's anything more than a single day ad. And I like the opportunity to grab McBride as soon as Brunson went down, see what happened. We got 2 stinkers in a row leading into a terrible schedule, and that's where you make adjustments. And that's why we don't necessarily look significantly long-term at this point in the year. Because it would be easy to say, well, we're just going to hold him and get the value out of him in the games where Brunson's out, all well and good, but you might miss out on 3 extra games played by doing that with a 50-50 shot of it being good, and that puts you out of the season and you're done. So I get why you would add him as a stream for today. It's not even close to being guaranteed that he's going to put up even good numbers today, but it's there. It's something people did. The next one is one that is even harder, I think, to figure out, and that's Kessler Edwards. I'll give you my daily update on Kessler Edwards' games remaining on his contract. The answer to that is 5. 5. So, understanding that, you know what that means? That he can play all 3 games this week, all 2 games next week, and be done. Or they might decide to preserve games. And this is where the question comes in with Kessler, is because what if PJ Washington's just available to play? Because he's questionable today. What if PJ plays? Do they need Edwards to play? Will he play? He's been playing pretty good minutes, 35, 31, 29 the last 3 games. You can look at his stats on the screen, like he's only 12% rostered. He's the 80th ranked category league player. He's 106th in points. He's averaging 13, 5, and 2 with 1.3 steals, shooting ridiculous numbers which won't hold, 57 and 100 from the line. Right, that won't hold. But what if he just gets a 0? What if now, if Washington is back, because who do they start? Washington, Marshall, Christie, Thompson, Dinwiddie / Williams / Exum. Then there's like Caleb Martin coming off the bench, and there's the other guards. Like there isn't, if PJ plays, there isn't 30 minutes here for Kessler Edwards. And he honestly just could get 0s. And he's got 5 games left. So it is very risky. I actually do think that he will play today. But he might not play 30 minutes. He might play 20. It's incredibly risky. And we're just in an unknown spot. We're trying to guess what noted honest legend Jason Kidd is going to do. Wouldn't recommend that as a good strategy. Who knows? We don't know. If PJ is back, it gets incredibly risky here with Kessler. Not only from a does he play, but just how much does he play? And if Tre Jones is back, which I think Kai might be out. Now, Kai is out already. That's fine. But if Kai comes back the game after, then you're in that juggle situation where, how do you roll that where Kai's got 11, Kessler's got 5, Williams has got 8. You could just alternate Kessler and Kai for those 16 games. And maybe one of the bigs come back. Probably not. It is a tough call. I think that he's okay, but is he good enough where it's been best case here for Edwards as the 80th ranked player over the last week? Is that good enough where you probably don't get best case the rest of the way and you don't even know that he's going to play? Largely no. Largely no is how I would view that. The next guy we look at on one of the most added lists is an obvious one, and Kyshawn George, I've detailed a lot about him. He's going to be an intriguing guy to talk about in the offseason when we do more dynasty stuff and season review things, because his profile does not match anything about what he was coming into the NBA. And that happens with players. Some guys just turn into completely different players. And he has. He's been awesome. Now, his block rate at the moment is completely unsustainable, but his minutes seem relatively secure, which on a team like Washington is unbelievably useful. The usage is frustrating, the efficiency is frustrating, but the other stuff's great. I actually do think at this point with George, we're in a spot where holding him is the right move. Interestingly enough, that because some of the stuff that I'm not sure if you will, I'm not worried about this, because in order for me to put out as much stuff as I do and as much work as I do, we have certain programs and AI things to help with transcripts of the show to turn that into ideas for descriptions of the show. So I'm not sitting and writing it; it pumps it automatically, right? And there are certain things with AI trying to recognize names, but every single time I talk about Kyshawn George, and I know it'll do it this time. It'll come out and go, yeah, Josh talks about Keontae George. I have to go in and manually correct it every time. It just refuses to acknowledge that Kyshawn George exists. It goes, he's talking about K George in the NBA. It's got to be Keontae. No, Kyshawn's a player. Carlo Makovic, the fourth most added player. That was largely for Olynyk being out yesterday. I will maintain this about Makovic. If we get a role where he starts, he will roll top 75. No problem. But the chances of him being a starter this season in a prolonged stretch is very low. Because they'll play Misi, Zion will play the 4, Olynyk will play. We just keep an eye on him. It was a great stream if he did it yesterday, even though he came off the bench with Olynyk out. But we got to keep it in our brains. He's an interesting player. The next one, Dylan Brooks. We know why you had Dylan Brooks. It's because the Rockets are playing. And you go, hey, maybe he's a 30-minute starter. There is no Amen Thompson. He's going to get a chance to have 4 points or 17 points to shoot 20% or 90%. That's cool. That's the whole point of this. And the next one there is Bryce Sensabaugh, who I think we're in for a rough week. And people are going to ask about Kyle Filipowski as well. It's the same sort of story. This stuff was relatively foreseeable. We said it at the start of last week. The Jazz last week, playing all bad teams, load up your bad players. This week, they're against good teams. So I think this might be the final hurrah stuff for them in terms of whether the good guys play or not. Now, Sensabaugh played 25 minutes last game coming off the bench. He started in the previous ones. He's been solid, but he's a one-trick pony. He's a points guy who hits some threes at times. What we need to look at is they play on Friday against the Raptors. Big Sensabaugh game coming. Monday against the Bulls. Sensabaugh game. Wednesday against the Wizards, Sensabaugh game. But then it gets really, really rough in terms of how they're going to play this. Boston, Cleveland, Memphis, Houston, Denver. Maybe that's the final one, because that takes you through to the 28th of March, where Collins and Markkanen, Kessler, that they just might play all the way through there. And then you go into the 31st of March, where it's Charlotte, and then you got Atlanta and Portland mixing there, and some good teams. But you're in that final 2 weeks, and nobody will care if they just sit everybody. So while this could be the final hurrah for the Jazz starters, I do think that there is a shot that they do play through to that 28th of March against Denver, or once they get to the Wednesday against the Wizards next week, maybe that is it. Maybe the Sunday game against the Wolves is the final one. They play Wednesday, sit Friday, play Sunday, which then would unlock Filipowski and Sensabaugh as probably must-roster guys in that spot. Speaking of Keontae, he's actually out again today with his foot issue. That's 2 out of the last, the 2 games in a row that he's missed, and that's if you're missing games and your name's Keontae George, then we don't bother holding on to you, I think, relatively clearly. Let's get into, we'll talk Yahoo in a second, but today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. This is a message from the sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. But now, Taxes is just matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so that you can focus on your day. An expert who finds every deduction possible, files every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. There's no waiting, there's no wondering, and there's no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com, only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever just check into your bank account and go, bloody, where's it gone? Where did the money go? Well, dining out, online shopping, bills, entertainment, whatever it is, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO. You know, CFO is Chief Financial Officer. Yeah, not everyone knows business terms. I'll explain them. Business legend, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting out the old Monarch Money. It's complete financial command center. Track your accounts, investments, your spending. So just stop managing your money and start building wealth. When you do it, you get in there, you can see, bloody, am I actually spending this much on food delivery? Now I'm going to be embarrassed to do that for myself because I probably spend too much on it. But you know what? That's what Monarch Money is. You need a stark slap in the face sometimes. Is Monarch Money giving you a digital slap in the face? Who's to say? I guess you could do that if that's what you're into. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. I'm surprised they don't get me to spell it out because Monarch, maybe not everyone knows how to spell it. Let's do it. MONARCHMONEY.com. Code is LOCKEDONNBA for half off for the first year. Okay. let's get in now to talking about the next grouping of players, the most added guys over on Yahoo. And I put a tweet out earlier today saying, hey, who's a guy that you want to hear about on the Waiver Wire show? And multiple people said this man, which I didn't think we'd really be ever discussing. AJ Lawson, former Mavs two-way guy who's now a two-way player on the Raptors. But here we are. We are talking about AJ Lawson. And your number one question when I say two-way contract, you're going to go, am I getting Brandon Williams? Am I getting Kessler Edwards? Am I getting Tre Jones? No, you're not. He can play every single game. He has been kept inactive basically all season, AJ Lawson. He's also a player, Lawson, where it does help to have a memory. And I think having a memory just as a general rule in life is a good thing. But with him, we can look at the numbers. Like a 22 usage, that's interesting. 2% roster, not very much. Hey, he's averaging 15, 6 and 1, 3 threes. Okay, great. 175th in category leagues. What? Why would that be? 123rd in points leagues? Surely not. Yeah, he's shooting 29% from the field. He's shooting 67% from the line in 31 minutes. They are all absolutely horrific numbers. And the inconsistency is what kills you. Because he went 32 and 12 with 7 threes, and everyone will remember that game and go, oh my God, let's go, we are in. It's AJ Lawson. He's the guy. They're sitting Barrett. Barnes is going to miss. Quickly's out. They don't have any dick. So it's Lawson time. Well, you know what happened? The 2 games before where he started, he shot 18% and 15% in playing big minutes. What about the game before? He had 13 points on 83%. So to say that we don't know what we're going to get is a gross understatement. We have no idea. Will he start? Don't know. Will he come off the bench? Don't know. Will he shoot the worst percentage you've ever seen? Will he shoot the best percentage you've ever seen? I don't know. I think he is an NBA player, AJ Lawson, in terms of on a mid to bad team, he could be a regular every night rotation guy. But it's a very big risk. You are going to cop it hard. And yeah, this is a period, if you're going to use AJ Lawson, this is when you do it. Because we know, like the Jazz, these are the 2 teams doing this. Not other teams aren't doing this as much. Well, not really at all. These 2 teams are doing this. They play a bad opponent. Actually, I think Philly might move into this as well. They play a bad opponent, they're going to sit their guys. And AJ is one of their guys who won't be sat. You just got to understand that he's going to be risky. I don't mind a stream of him. I don't mind trying it out. Just understand that last game is not it. He started the 2 games prior to that and had 13 points on 24 shots. That's really hard to do. He had 3 assists in 2 games, which consisted of almost 60 minutes of play. He hit 2 threes over those 2 games. Like, horrendous. And then he went 7 of 14 from 3 the next game. So for me to tell you I know what you're going to get, I'm lying. For you to say you know what you're going to get, you're lying as well. What I feel good about saying is we'll get 30 minutes and probably 20 plus usage, which is usually enough to take a chance on. And this is the week where they will give him the minutes. And that's good too. What about the night watchman? Mohammed, why are you gay? Someone, and I know that not everything joke that I do is going to hit or it's going to land or anything like that. But someone's going, man, why do you say the name like that? You obviously haven't seen it. Just Google why are you gay meme and you'll see it. And there you go. And that'll explain it all. Mohammed Gay, interesting player who does have a good fantasy skill set. When he started, he'd play 14 minutes. This is actually not it for us. We don't like it in 14. But recently, he's getting like 22 minutes a night, which honestly, it is enough. The problem that I have now is that we have not seen any Gay action when they have been semi-healthy. Last game, Vit Krejci returned. Yep, but Karis LeVert was out. So we have not seen a game where Krejci's back, Trae Young and Karis LeVert play. Because when you do the 240 game, it's actually almost impossible to give the guys minutes. How does LeVert play 29 and Mann played 23 and Niang played 25 and Ricochet played 25 and Krejci played 20? They can't. So who loses out? Do we go back to 14 minutes of Gay? Is 14 minutes of Gay enough? I don't think so. 22 minutes of Gay probably is. But I think it's going to be almost impossible. Also, although, now that I say that, Clint Capella's out today. So we might get Gay sliding into the center position to be the backup there. I don't know. But that is the risk. Gay has been solid. Gay has been good. Gay has been hot. But getting the minutes on a team who is healthy outside of Larry Nance, the 240 game is actually really tough there. I've got the Hong Kong mattress Carson Wallace on this list, who he's an interesting player, and we know that Jalen Williams is out for a little bit of time here. We don't know exactly how long, but I'd say it's safe to say he's not playing in the next week and might be 2 weeks. I still think even though Jalen is out of this scenario, that you're going to get a lot of ups and downs. They could, I think majority of the time they start Wallace. I think they could start Wiggins. I think that Wallace probably is the guy that I want. There's just more well-roundedness. He can have a spike scoring and shooting game. But he's also got the foundation of, hey, I'll get a block or 3 steals and 6 assists and 5 rebounds. Whereas someone like Aaron Wiggins, it's like, I just need shots and them to go in at 60%, and then I score 20 on 7 attempts. But he doesn't do enough of the other stuff. I'm not saying Wiggins shouldn't be tried out. I just think that there's a little bit more floor reliability in Wallace, especially if you're not looking for scoring. Al Horford, one of the most added players. I get it. With Porzingis out, Horford has been playing really well. If Porzingis is in, I think there will be 30 other options that you can use that'll be better than Al. So I don't think that makes a lot of sense to me. One of the next most added players is Quentin Grimes. I just didn't think that he'd be available in enough leagues to qualify to be one of the most added players, but here you go. The thing we need to watch here is they play the Raptors. The last time out, Nick Nurse came out and told us something that was sort of true. He said that they've been playing a lot of minutes. That was 100% true. And we're going to limit their minutes. And that was true for one game. And then he played 39 minutes the next game. And my theory at the time was, okay, that's interesting, Nick. What are you guys doing? Or did you just say that specifically for that one game against the Jazz? So far, it was specifically for the one game against the Jazz. But now they play the Raptors. So does that same theory come into play again? Do we get 28 minutes of Quentin Grimes instead of 39 because it's against the Raptors? I would think that we are at a decent shot of that being the case. But I also have no idea. And then they go into playing the Pacers, and then they've got the Mavericks, which is another low-minute opportunity. Then the Rockets on a back-to-back, then the Thunder, then the Spurs, which is a low-minuter, the Hawks, which might be a low-minuter, the Pelicans a low-minuter, the Washington Wizards a low-minuter. Just got to watch that. And that means that other guys, Lonnie Walker, who we'll talk about later, Jared Butler, Jeff Doughton, but it's really not going to be consistent. Look at Butler's minutes, 25, 11, 29, 24. Started one of them. Doughton played 12 minutes and 28 the next game. Does Oubre even play? We're rostering Grimes, and I like Grimes a lot, but I do think we are going to get a little rug pulled on this stuff. And then Lou Dort's the other one. Lou Dort is just Oklahoma City Dylan Brooks. You always try it out. You never want to commit to it, but you always want to try it out. And that's where we're at. And it just opens his floor a little bit, or bumps his floor a little bit, with the Bronco sidelined. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. New customers, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra bucks to use on everything. Buzzer beaters, Cinderella stories, even bet on who you think is going to be cutting down the nets. Who's the favorite? Who do you do? Or do you think it's an underdog? You're going for a 5-12. Is that how the matchup goes? I don't know. 12 over 5, 16 over 1. Are we going to get one of those big upsets? Or are you just going to roll with the high seeds all the way through? You can do that as well on FanDuel and whatever it is. As long as that first $5 bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. So go to FanDuel.com and get in on all of the college hoops action all tournament long. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, let's take a look at some of the most dropped players. And the thing that you need to know and you need to be acting out at this point is we just need to be brutal with our moves. You'll sit there and go, but what if someone picks them up? Who cares? Honestly, who cares? Because I will say this often as well. If you cut somebody who plays 2 games this week and you want to get 5 games in on that roster slot, what if my opponent picks them up? Well, you know what happens there? That means your opponent loses a streaming slot so that they can't max their games out this week, and you get the advantage in a big way. And I assure you, 2 weeks ago, nobody was sitting here going, I've got to make it a call. Am I doing Jared Roden or AJ Lawson? Oh, that's a tough one. What about Orlando Robinson? Is he the guy there? Oh, don't forget Brandon Williams. Nobody said this, ever. So while we can sit there and go, I don't know about, do I hold on to this guy? You know what's going to happen in a week's time? Another range of names. We're going to be talking about, there might be an opportunity for Ray J. Dennis here. Like, something like that will happen. Someone will cut somebody and a 10-day guy will come in and have an opportunity and play 4-5 games. This will happen on certain spots. There's going to be certain contenders emerge in different areas all the time. So while you go, but man, he's like 100th and I just don't want to lose him. What if someone else picks him up and cooks me? If they pick him up and hold him and get 3 games out of him, you get 7 out of that slot, you win anyway. through the 30 other guys that step up into roles for individual periods of time. Cool, be brutal. Kelly Olynyk most dropped. Cool, see you later. Hadn't been playing well, sat a random back-to-back, will continue to sit games, can't trust it, bye. Mutters Bazalis. Yep, cool. We would hope that the Bulls would do something like this, but they are the most putrid and pathetic franchise. And honestly, sorry Bulls fans, if you're out there, I'd say the Bulls have the most bootlicker franchise fans of any team in the NBA. There are plenty of fans who don't like what they do, but there are plenty who just go, no, this is the right move. We're just trust us. Because we actually for 2 months were one of the best teams when Alonzo was healthy, so we actually were on the right path. Craziness. Anyway, so they're going to be okay with Buzelis being limited all the way down the stretch here. Don't roster him. Drop him. We thought there was a chance. We take chances and we get out ahead of it. We take flyers. Doesn't work, you move on. Easy. Andre Drummond, the big avocado, he sat out the last game with an illness. What's he dealing with? Porzingis' problem? He is not going to be reliable. And again, he is washed. Washed players can still have good games. They can't do it consistently enough. And we've seen him start many times for Joel Embiid, and we've seen him start now and still gets outplayed by Yabusele or outplayed by Bona. Drummond is an interesting stream guy on certain days, but there's absolutely no reliability. Bilal Coulibaly. They changed he fell on his back. They called it a hamstring injury. Now it's a hip issue. Not good enough to hold. Absolutely not. Bye-bye. Ty Jerome, most dropped. I agree. 100% I agree. You know my thoughts on Ty Jerome, and then he rested the last game on the back of 4 bad ones in a row. Easy drop. The next one is Brandon Clark. Cool. I was all about trying to grab him and see what happened with Jaren Jackson out, and then he missed a game. So you know what you do when you miss a game and then you're questionable in the next one? You're not good enough to hold. You get rid of them. Bye-bye, Brandon Clark. Thank you for my opportunity. I just wished that it would have happened. On the Yahoo side, a lot of guys with names starting with A on this list. I don't think that really means anything, but whatever. And I wholeheartedly agree with dropping Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard. You know that this is, to me, a rock-solid strategy. If Halliburton, McConnell, Mathurin, Nembhard, Nesmith are all available and healthy, you don't roster any of them apart from Halliburton. None of them are 12-team league guys. Always with the caveat of, okay, 14-team leagues, yes. Dynasty, different story. Weekly stash, different story. Deeper leagues, whatever. I'm talking about a standard 12-team daily changes format. None of them are worthy of holding to just wait for their next game. Easy drops. Max Strus. Same with Hunter. Same with Jerome. Same with Merrill. Same with whoever else. Okoro. Wade. You don't really care about them. Not guys to hold. Not enough. Absolutely. Drop them roster them when they play and go for it. Asar Thompson. Interestingly, people moved on. I get it. You probably don't have the ability to do that. And I was going to say I'm waiting to prove JB Bickerstaff wrong. I proved it wrong yesterday. I did it. We did it. He lied. Or, I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did with that story of Asar Thompson, the minutes restriction is off. Okay. That's why he's played 20 minutes in 3 consecutive games. Yes. And I know 2 of them are foul troubles. Yesterday's was not. Yesterday was not foul trouble. So there was no minutes restriction. There was no foul trouble. And he played 21 minutes. And my thing with this all along was he was not being restricted by medical restrictions. He was being restricted by the fact that Tobias Harris was there. And the only games that he played 30 minutes this season were the 2 that Tobias Harris got injured. And again, it's proven out. Maybe that reverses course. But so far, every piece of evidence suggests that what JB Bickerstaff said, I don't know if he put it out there just to confuse fantasy managers, but it was wrong. So yeah, 21 minutes of Asar Thompson is clearly not enough. Although, I actually think 25 is what he's going to get. I would have tried to, out of everyone on this list, he's the easy hold. But I also get it if you want to move on. Alex Sarr, bro. Again, this is the time of year where rookies often step up. The reverse rookie wall, so to speak. He's not hitting a rookie wall. He's not bursting through it. He's just doing the same stuff. Nothing's changing. Move on. And Keon Johnson, 1 point yesterday from the big fella. And like we said, if you added for a 5-game week and your whole plan was based on getting 5 games out of 1 move from Nets, then you probably just want to hold because what are you gaining from dropping? But if you've got moves up your sleeve, 20 teams play the same amount of games as the Nets now rest of week, he's absolutely not going to be the best one to add. So bye-bye. See you later. Easy drop. Let's look at a bunch of hot players now. Guys who are inside the top 100 over the last week that deserve some discussion. Brandon Williams is there. Even though he missed the last game, still 35th. If he is healthy from this hamstring, which again would be a pretty quick recovery if he does actually play, we're in on using him. We know that there are minutes restrictions. We know that. So yeah, he's a he's a guy that I wouldn't hold, but we jump back on. Rashawn Holmes. I don't really get this. I don't know why they're playing him, but I also don't know how in 20 minutes a night he's the 70th ranked player, but he is. He's putting up really good numbers. And honestly, as a single day stream guy, Holmes has been really good. Now, he did sit one half of the back-to-back, so maybe that's a thing going forward. We're not going to anchor ourselves onto Rashawn Holmes, but he should be getting a little bit more respect at this point, I think. And that's from, respect is in respect from me in terms of what he's doing. What about Tre Jones? Because this is a popular one. Josh Giddey injured, and we're getting conflicting reports. And the Bulls, by the way, the Bulls are doing it again. They said Josh Giddey will be out on Thursday. They said it's going to be out for a bit. Then they're like, oh, no, it's actually responded better. He's going to be on the trip. But you know what they did for Thursday? They listed him doubtful. They already said he is out. They have done this 4 times this season. Once with Giddey, once with Lonzo, I think, and once with Dosunmu, where they said, hey, he's out for 2 weeks, and then put him doubtful the next day. There is no shot that he is playing on Thursday, Josh Giddey. You cannot trust the Bulls injury reporting at all. They do this every time this season. It's happened every time. And it gives you this false sense. I would be stunned if Giddey plays this week. I would say most likely the beginning of next week. But the fact they're listing him doubtful is just going to put that doubt in your mind. But there is multiple instances of them doing this. They said he was out. Anyway, Tre Jones. A lot of people ran to grab him. Look at that. His advanced numbers up to 30% rostered. He's 75th over the last week. That's actually pretty good. 32 fantasy points. Fine. 14, 4, and 5.5 assists with a steal. Great. Love it. 32 minutes. It's helpful. There's no Giddey. There's no Lonzo Ball. These numbers are good. 100% from the field and 51 from the 100% from the line and 51 from the field. They're really good numbers. They're not trustworthy numbers at all. But I also don't care. I don't care. 5 days left this week. They play twice. Theoretically, Giddey could play on Saturday. I don't think he will. And this is not a long-term ad, I don't think. It could be. Maybe Lonzo doesn't play and he plays 32 minutes a night rest of the season. But I think that this little run that Tre is on, which is very good. If Tre Jones was a 70th ranked player rest of season, I would say you add him and you hold him because that's good enough. But I don't, because I don't think that he's rolling at 51% shooting. Therefore, if he's not 51% shooting and he's 44% shooting, then he's the 110th best player, and then that spot becomes streamable. So I get the idea. It makes sense that Lonzo's out. It makes sense that Giddey's out. But while we have, and this can be a mental disconnect that we all have. It is hard to break, because I will almost sit here and guarantee you that Tre Jones will have a big game on Thursday. Almost will guarantee you he'll have a game where he goes 17, 4, and 7 with a steal and a 3. That is almost a lock guarantee that he will do that. And then it will go, well, see, of course it made sense that I added him. Yep. But that ignores the fact that would have burnt a roster spot on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Friday, and then if you hold him through Saturday, and then you burn a spot on Sunday too. So that's great that one game is there, that he had a big one in, but it burns roster spots. Roto, go for it. He could have a 30-minute roll rest of season. I don't think it's going to be this good. But just be aware that the justification, if he goes big on Thursday, does not mean it's the correct decision, because you get more value out of utilizing that spot in other areas. Getting somebody in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday versus getting 2 games that maybe are good, and in one of them you could have a stinking shooting night. The value of him, I don't think, is worth plonking and squatting on a roster spot. I could easily be wrong on this. Easily. He could just blow me away and have a real hot streak. But I don't think that it is a priority type spot for you. What about the pencil? Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. He's the 87th ranked player over the last week. That is definitely, as Sheev would say, our good friend, a surprise to be sure. But a welcome one. Do I care? I refuse to bring myself to care about Harrison Barnes' big one. I don't. Now, their schedule is not bad. And Harrison Barnes on a Friday, Saturday back-to-back will absolutely be targetable. Absolutely. And if you are in a full move preservation spot, a 3-game in 4-nighter, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, is interesting. I will say this. The Spurs are losing a lot. And while it might not seem like it on the surface, they're slowly doing the tank. And those games are against Dallas, Charlotte, and New Orleans. So just watch. Just watch for 20 minutes of Barnes. Just watch for maybe we throw a Harrison Ingram in one game. Just these 3 games for San Antonio will be very instructive to me because they are going a little under the radar with the way that they're running rotations. Just watch that. The 3 and 4 nights is beautiful. And I don't mind the flyer on it. If that is the thing that works for you in terms of move preservation, cool. But it is an interesting time where I can just see something weird happening. Scott Pippen is the 91st ranked player over the last week. Kennard has been out though. Now, how they deploy Pippen, I don't really know. Because the last 2 games he's played 25 minutes and been very good. But Kennard was out. So what if Kennard is back? Well, he is back actually. Is Pippen still worth it in 12s? Almost certainly not. But if Morant is out, then we can look at Scotty a little bit more. But still, I don't think that we need to worry about that in 12s. And then in the top 100 is Orlando Robinson. Talked about Orlando a lot. In stashable formats, I think it's a very good move. I think he is going to have a run of being a 12-team guy, probably starting in 2 weeks. At the moment, he's just a spot start guy. But even in 24 minutes, which is all Pirtle's getting, so Robinson gets the other 24, he's doing enough. So I think he's actually worth looking at and not a bad hold and gets the real bumps when Pirtle is out. What we finally want to talk about here is a list of other names that we go through. And number 1 on the list is Cole Anthony. He is going to start rest of season. He is going to have bad games. He's going to have good games. He's probably not quite close enough for me to be a guy that you go, I've got him, we're set, we use him, and we hold, and that roster spot is now Cole's. I don't think he's quite good enough for that. But as in all of these discussions, you need to be honestly appraising your roster. Because I can say this about Cole, and if he was my 11th best guy, then he is totally streamable when the schedule doesn't make sense. But if your roster is so sort of beat up or league is deeper and he's your 8th, then that's a clear hold. A very easy hold. When we're talking about positions to stream, we're looking at our 11th, 12th, 13th, or 14th, depending on how your roster looks. You're looking at those bottom 4 guys, and you're finding, hey, which 2 of them played the low quality games this week? Because then they're gone. But your 8th guy, probably not. Now, you could stretch it to your 10th guy or even your 9th guy at times to get more games out of that spot. But if Cole pushes up to be that good on your team based on his current performances and the value we might have moving forward, it's a very different story. But again, we also have to adjust our positioning here in the playoffs. If you're in the fantasy playoffs, there might be 4 teams left. There might be 6 teams left. That's half the league. There's not as much activity on the wire now. But also the teams that are still there, they're stronger because they made it this far. So in most cases, Cole won't be a 7th best player. He'll be 11th, which is fine to have him, but also fine to ignore him as a regular must-hold sort of a dude. Let's go to Los Angeles because we know there's no LeBron. We know there's no Rui Hachimura. There's been no Jackson Hayes. So Jared Vanderbilt-Bar has been doing more. Vanderbilt's minutes have pushed up. He is now, he's averaging 24 minutes a night over the last week. He is at a robust 9% usage. Those are Jericho Sims numbers. He's averaging 4 points. So why would we even consider him? How is he 147th over the last week? Well, realistically, it's because he has 6 rebounds and 1.7 steals and shoots 55 from the field. I think he gets 26 to 27 a night moving forward. While these guys are out at least. He's got a back-to-back rest risk. And we know that if you're looking for points, you just will not get that. Now that compares and contrasts with his teammate Dalton Connect. And if you could merge Dalton Connect and Jared Vanderbilt into one player, you'd have a top 75 guy for this stretch and be a must-add. Unfortunately, it's going to cost you 2 roster spots to do that, which makes it less appealing. But the Lakers, due to cancellations and postponements of games, they have a schedule that is so heavy. 6 games in 8 nights coming up, which has never been seen in the NBA for years. The problem with that is this man has been dealing with foot surgery. So, does he play 5 of those? 4 of those? It's all good on the surface, but how does Vanderbilt survive that? They go Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. That is back-to-back into back-to-back into back-to-back. 2 games on, 1 game off. 2 games on, 1 game off. 2 games on, 1 game off, 1 game on. It's an insane schedule. And then it's bad after that. Then they go on, off, on, off, on. Terrible schedule. Off, on. It is just so busy. And that is going to burn Vanderbilt out. He will rest games. He is totally okay to use. But while the schedule is appealing, he won't take full advantage of it. Connect will. He'll play all those games. But his value realistically is just because Hachimura and LeBron are out. Now, I'm not a big Rui Hachimura guy. Not sure if you've ever heard that about me before. I'm not a big Hachimura guy, but if LeBron is out and Hachimura returns, then yeah, we do add Rui Hachimura in that spot. And for now, you can use Dalton Connect, absolutely. You can use Jared Vanderbilt, but they're for very different purposes, of course. You could even use, like, if you were desperate enough, you could try Tre Jemison, I guess. Jordan Goodwin, who's on the 2-way limit. What is his 2-way limit? 9 games left, and Jemison's got 9 as well. Gabe Vincent becomes streamable. There's so many games, and if you're looking for ways to get a lot of games at a one roster spot, the Lakers are who you start to target starting Thursday. So Vanderbilt is one of those names that you can look at, but just be aware that I don't think he takes full advantage of the schedule. Let's go to the other guy that I highlighted on this list, and that is Adem Bona, who I like as a player. He is a slightly undersized center in Philadelphia, coming from UCLA, very athletic, very good defender, has a little bit of passing ability. Like, not quite like Vanderbilt, because he's averaging 11 and 6 over the last week in 22 minutes. 2.3 blocks is really the killer there, and elite percentages. He's 118th in that time. He's up to 30% rostered on Basketball Monster, 13% on Yahoo. Those numbers are great. And I don't know that we would consider him a must roster, but they play Toronto, then another game against Dallas, like we talked about with Quentin Grimes. I think he's going to get close to 20 minutes in a lot of these games. I think they would be smart to play Bona more than Drummond. I think that Bona could easily enter next season as Joel Embiid's backup and part-time starter. I think he's good enough. For now, is he worth a stash type of a scenario? I at least like him for Wednesday, Bona. I think there is value in using him on Wednesday. And long-term, I think we will get to a spot where he becomes we are holding him as a top 80 guy for a period of time. But he needs 26 a night to push into that role. And at this stage, we're not there. We could get there, but we're not there. I like him. If you have stash ability, I get it. But stashing does come with big risks at this point in head-to-head transaction leagues. And in points leagues, he's 27 points is great. Those numbers are all pretty good. And honestly, when I look at those numbers, like 2.3 blocks in 22 minutes is the real outlier. 100% free throws isn't going to hold. The rest of the stuff, pretty real. Like, that's all pretty real. It's not gigantically crazy to suggest that he will be quite good if he got 26 a night. But currently, he still is the third string center. So there is a risk involved in that. 3 more names that I wanted to cover off here. Lonnie Walker, who is honestly a really bad fantasy player. He's one of those guys that in the past has been a 28-minute a night player, but ranked 270th. He doesn't do anything apart from inefficiently score. But there is going to be a period, and you saw it, the last 2 games. He had one really good game, and then he had 11 points in the next one on 30% shooting or something. But he did add some assists in there. He is 100% like a 14-team league option here, Lonnie. And I think we'll get, again, more clarity against Toronto. What do they do with Grimes? What do they do with Oubre? And if we get any word that Maxey is done and Oubre is done, which Maxey way more likely, then yeah, I actually think this could be a Walker spot. It's definitely more for deeper leagues, but I'm not going to ignore the fact that he needs volume to produce value, but this is where the volume might come. If you lose Maxey, George, then Oubre, well, it's Grimes and Walker, and that's it. I'm going to go to Jared Rhoden as well, who plays in Toronto. Real player. Was in Detroit last season, I think, for a bit. That's probably why you don't recognize him. He has only got 8 games left on a 2-way contract, though. He started the last game. He played 26 minutes. He's played 20 minutes plus in 4 straight games, and 28, 29, 26 have been the minutes totals the last 3. There is a chance here with Quickly and Barrett out, and maybe Barnes out, and Dick out, and Abaji out, and maybe Battle out, and Walker out. There's a lot of options for Rhoden here, and that's at least single game streamy. And I could see him being more valuable than AJ Lawson, honestly. And the last name is Justin Champagny in Washington. He started with Bilal out in the last game over Bub Carrington. Interesting. If Bilal remains out, I would be very interested in Justin. The problem here is going to be the 240 game. Because if Bilal plays, Justin played 4 minutes 2 games ago when they had a healthy roster. 4. So we need somebody out. Whether it's Bilal or a shutdown of Middleton or another injury somewhere else, they're really your only 2 options. If one of those 2 things happens, then Champagne is in. But literally 2 games ago, on Saturday against the Raptors, he played 4 minutes. Because we had Carrington with 21 and George with 31 and Bilal 36 and Kispert 27 and who else do we get? Middleton 24 and Smart 18. There's not enough for Champagne, and they showed that they deprioritize him. It needs some. In the next game, we had no Middleton, so Champagne played 24. In the next game, we had no Koulibaly, and he played 31. So he's 1 step away from being close enough. But you need that to happen, don't you? And again, we're in the spot where if you waste a move on Justin Champagne, the Wizards play only 2 more games this week. And in those games, he plays 4 minutes each. You're cooked. I don't feel confident about that. Now, I think Bilal might sit on Thursday. But what if we get 30 minutes of Champagne Thursday, 5 on Saturday? Worth it? No, it's not. Still like him, still watching it. But we have to be aware of the reality and what it takes to get there. No, it could easily happen. It could easily be that Bilal just doesn't play. But at this point, we don't know that. So it is a risk. I would rather take a situation where I go, this guy's actually in a spot where he is playing 30, and I know I'm getting 30, versus what if I get dicked and he plays 4? That's the worry there. The worry you might have, though, is the show is over. And maybe I didn't talk about your favorite player. Drop them in the comments below. Someone else might want to talk about them with you. Maybe I'll jump in with a comment on that as well. And I apologize if I didn't cover them. We'll be covering everything, though, on the recap show later today, plus a preview of Thursday's action is coming. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe and ring the little bell. You know I like that little dingle. So hit that and you'll never miss anything that comes out. Guys, we are done here. This was a long show. Hopefully it was useful. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.